Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll be learning how arrays works internally in Java, and in the next coming video, we'll be learning operations on arrays like insertion, deletion from the end index, start index, and in between start and end index. Now let's take you are given a class of 60 students where you want to store mathematics subjects marks of all these 60 students. Let us try to do that. Int student 1 scored 85. Int student 2 scored 65. Int student 3 scored 48. Int student 4 scored 57. Int student 5 scored 32, and so on until student 60 who scored 98. This is how we store 60 student marks of mathematics subject. Now can you observe a pattern here? All these student marks are of type integer. Only the values are changing for each student. There can be same as well, but they are different in this case. In Java, is there a way to store all these student marks within a single variable? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. That's where arrays comes into picture, where we can store multiple values in a single variable of same data type. The equivalent code for this is int. This indicates the list of values, and the marks data type is integer, and here we need to give a reference variable, and it can be anything. I'm just giving maths marks equals new int of 60. Yep, this only declares the size of this integer variable where the size is 60. How can we insert these values then? Yes, these values can be inserted using the indexes from 0 to 59. For 60, the indexes will be 0 to 59. Meaning in Java, arrays index starts from 0 and goes till length minus 1. Let us try to insert some 5 student marks. Maths marks 0 equals 85, 1 equals 65, and this will be same reference variable. Second student marks is 48. Third student marks is 57. Fourth student marks is some 32. Yep, that's the use of arrays in Java. I hope you all got the intuition of arrays in Java. Now let us try to see how this int maths marks with size 60 is stored in stack and heap. I'll just write the same line again. Int maths marks equals new int of 60. And this new keyword is used to create an object in the heap. And these things we'll be learning in our Java oops concept. I'll just have a stack over here and heap, stack, heap. Whenever this line is encountered, this reference variable will go into stack maths marks, and this part will go into heap, which will create an object with 60 values in it. For this example, I'll just take 5. You may be having a doubt, why zeros? Because the default values of primitive integer data type is 0. That's the reason initially it will be having all the 60 values as 0, and whenever you try to insert a value into maths marks object, math marks of 0 equals 60. And one more thing I missed to mention, for each values there will be a memory address. For this it will be something like 101. For this it will be 102, 103, 104, and so on. For primitive data type, the memory address will be continuous, and whenever this line is encountered where you are trying to insert a value of 60 to the first position, in Java what it does is it will just override the value of my bad it will just override the value of 0 to 60 with the same memory address. The same memory address will be allocated to the updated value. That's how it works for primitive data types and with an object. I hope so far it's clear. If you have any doubts, post the questions in the comment section. We'll try to answer all those things. We have one more way of declaring an array variable. Let's see that. Int maths marks equals here, instead of writing new int and the size of array, we can directly assign a values to it. I'll just have some 5 to 6 values. Even though we are not mentioning a new keyword here, Java internally implements the same way how it happens with a new keyword. That's another way of declaring an array. Let's see this in practical. Let me just grab my keyboard. Yep, screen share started. Just have a main function over here. Int maths marks of new int of size 60. Now if I try to print maths marks, it will just print 60 values of zeros. Let me try to print that. This should be arrays example. That's the reason it's throwing error. My bad. I need to import this class. Yes. .toString of. Don't worry about this arrays toString method. We'll be seeing that in the next upcoming video. If I run this program, it will print 60 values of 0. Array example should be declared. Okay, I need to change the file name. Where is that? Yep, if I run this program, it should work. Yep. Just close this. So it's printing 60 values of zeros. Because the default values of integer data type is primitive data type integer is 0. Let me try to add some values into it. 60. Even I can assign a values in between the start and end index as well. 40, Maths marks of, it's kind of the second student did not attend maths subject exam. 45. If I try to print, it will print 60, 0, 0, 40, and 0, 45. Because index starts from 0. From 0 to 3, there are two indexes in between. That's the reason we have two zeros here. 60, 0, 0, 40, 0, 45. I hope this part is clear. Let us move on to our next topic, that is internal working for object array. So far we have seen internal working for integer data type, primitive integer data type. Now we'll see object instead of integer data type. Let me go back to Notepad. Yep. Object array. In our previous video, we have seen a wrapper classes, right? What is the object type of primitive data type integer? That's integer wrapper class, right? I'll just declare the same array with integer instead of primitive data type integer. Maths marks equals new integer of size 60. Now let us see how stack and heap behaves for this kind of object array. Here I'll have stack and heap, stack, heap. Maths marks reference variable goes into stack memory. That behavior is not changed. Maths marks. And a integer object is created with 60 values in it. But the point here is, what is the default value for integer wrapper class? Wrapper classes are nothing but objects. What is the default value for integer object? It will be always null. The default values for object will be always null. So it will create an object of size 60 with all null values. And all these things are object inside. And this math marks will point to this. Even in my previous example, this math marks will always pointing to this object in the heap. Let us try to insert a value into first position. Maths marks of zero equals, we need to insert an integer value. Integer dot, we have a method value of 10. In this case, this 10 will be treated as an object. Whenever this line is encountered in heap, what it does is it will create an object of 10, and this null will be overridden to, let me just clear this out. The null will be overridden to a reference variable, that is maths marks 0. I'll just write it here. Maths marks of 0. And this reference variable will be pointing to the newly created object 10. And whenever you try to access 0th index of maths marks, it will internally call maths marks 0 reference variable, and the pointing object will be returned as an output. That's how it works for an object array. Now, let us try to insert some more values. Maths marks of 2 equals integer dot value of 80. Again, index 0, 1, 2. This will be erased and the reference variable will be stored here. Maths marks of 2 and this will point to the object 80. Now can you tell me what is object array? Can we just say them as a collection of reference variable where it will just hold all the reference variable, but the object will be stored somewhere in the heap. And one more point here is the memory address for these objects will not be continuous for object array. Let's take the memory address for object 10 as 101. For object 80, it could be 201. It might be continuous, but it depends on JVM. I hope so far the things are clear. Let us try to see object array in practical. Yep. Integer maths marks equals new integer of size 60. I need to name it differently. Okay, I'll just print the same thing before inserting values. Comment this out. It will print null values of 60. See, it's printing null values. Let me try to insert some values into it. Maths marks of 0 equals integer dot value of 10. I just copy this out, just change the index to 2 and value from 10 to 50. If we print, it will have 10 at 0th position and 50 at 2nd position, meaning 3rd position if we consider the index from 1. But internally Java stores reference variable here. Since we are accessing the array, it is returning the object in the console. I hope the things are clear now. Just to reiterate, arrays of primitive data type will be having the default values to it, meaning for integer default value is 0, for double default value will be 0.0, for boolean default value will be false. Whenever you declare an array of primitive data type, it will have the default values of size whatever you have declared. And whenever you try to assign some values to any position, it will just override the value and the memory address will not be changed. Coming to object array, initially in the heap, it will be having all the null values of size whatever you have declared, and whenever you try to assign a value to any indexes, it will store the reference variable, but object will be created somewhere in the heap memory, and memory address of objects will not be continuous for object array. I hope the things are clear now. In the next coming video, we'll be seeing the operations on arrays like inserting elements at the start index, inserting element at the end index, inserting in between start and end index, and the same 3 operations for deletion. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.